Hey, what's up guys, it's Oakley, and CA is revealing some new information. This is going to be a DLC pack coming out soon for Total War Attila. It is going to be the Empires of the Sand Culture pack. Now the price is kind of indicative of what we've seen from the culture packs. It's going to be coming in at around $7. They throw this artificial minus 10% off for pre-order. But yeah, let's dive right into it. So what they're offering is going to be these three main factions, Aksum, Himyar, and the Tanukhids. So it's supposed to represent both African and sort of Middle Eastern armies and factions. They have new features alongside them. So for example, you're going to have different faction groups, some of them in hordes, some of them are typical factions, but they have unique styles. The Desert Kingdoms, for instance, at the top is going to be their grouping, and so they have +2 to sanitation, +15 to melee attack in desert battles, immunity to desert attrition. So you can see they're going to obviously try and excel in the desert, live in the desert. They also said that they're implementing new religion features in the game, so you can choose between 3 new religions: early Christianity, Judaism, and Semitic paganism. And then you kind of, and we'll go over this in a little bit, have more of an interwoven campaign experience with the religions. It'll trigger different campaign events. It'll also, the religion will allow you to unlock certain units and whatnot. So they go ahead and talk about this here at the bottom. It says it's deeply intertwined with the campaign. So at the top, the dual religion building chains, like I said, Aksum and Himyar possess building chains that follow each of the religions. So making religious choices will then reflect which buildings you can then construct. It seems like they're going to push this further than they have before. Tier 5 barracks, this is for Aksum and Himyar. These are your two sort of settled societies, and again, you can see just here and there how they weave in the religion. Split victory conditions and achievements, so different sets of victory conditions, again tied to religion. Pleasure building chains, where you can again play a balancing act, but this time between religious stability and financial gain. Increased diplomatic significance. New religions have increased diplomatic impact. So it seems like they're trying to push the balancing act in the campaign, add more variables for you to juggle with, and pushing religion, for instance. Again, continuing on like this, you can see religion is tied to the technologies. You have, if you don't balance things correctly, you'll have religious discord and penalties that come with that, increased penalties, perhaps to try and nerf out the late game. And they said there are reactive religious events right there, which means it'll trigger stuff. Now, this is going to be the first faction. They're going to be looking pretty badass right here. It's kind of funny how you have these guys in almost no armor supposedly beating up these legionnaires. But anyways, we'll get right into it. So this is the Tanukhids. So they're the first one. They're the Horde faction. They're supposed to be hyper aggressive in terms of their playstyle. And you can see here, the faction traits are really, really cool. I like this. It kind of reminds me of the Wog from the Orcs. Look at this. Rapacious Horde. So you get food by raiding settlements. Every victory you get then spreads your fame and increases your Horde's growth rate. And then armies and raiding stance will get a free rebellion militia unit every turn. So that is a really cool new feature that I think will really add to the Horde mechanic. You'll just grow and grow and grow, and grow. The more victories you get, the quicker you grow. It seems like they're kind of trying proto-test the greenskin wall. A little bit of history about these guys. You can see it talks about them, how they have a warrior queen, a Mavia, and they had run-ins with the Romans. They were displaced because of a flood that devastated their homeland. And it talks about those guys a little bit more in depth if you're interested in that history. They talk a bit about the new buildings that you can push forward. 34 new buildings with unique artwork and campaign effects, unique event chains, and then here, which is kind of cool, dynamic barrack unlocks, which gives you access to some Roman units. So that's what I was thinking with these warriors of the sand. They seem very lightly armored, so it's good to see that this force has access here to defecting Romans, which will give you a little bit more of the holding power and hopefully round off the faction roster of these guys. Speaking of the faction roster, let's take a look at this. This looks very, very promising. I mean, just in terms of the variety. This is what Attila needed, is more variety. The synopsis at the top says, light but powerful shock cavalry are paired with stealth units and fast pike units. This force is good for area control and micromanagement. So that is just the way they describe this is very interesting. They're not going for the super historical because, of course, they've had to fantasize this a little bit, add elements, and I'm glad they're focusing on trying to make it as a faction stand out. So, for example, here, I mean, desert pikes with rapid advance, high missile block chance. Pikes, for instance, have suffered severely from missile block chance, but here, they're fast, they're quick, high missile block chance. You have guerrilla deployment of different lancers units, cavalry, ambushers, all types of stuff. Heavy pikes in here, plus the Roman units at the bottom and the heavy clibanarii. So I think that's very cool. And look at this. The cavalry, the chosen chargers and the chosen cavalrymen shock cav with exceptional charge bonus. So it looks like they're doing a good job of trying to flesh out these factions. Now I'm a little worried about the weight. Very light shock cav right there. I'm not sure if that is going to hold up against some of the tankier cavalry units that you'll see in the game. But at least they're trying to make that stand out. Now we're going to move on to the next faction. Of course, CA does a great job with these cinematics. It looks very epic. And we're going to be moving on to Aksum. So Aksum here is going to be supposed to be very powerful in terms of trade. And where they are essentially located is around Ethiopia, and they sort of rise up in strength. They get boosts for doing trade things. So kind of, you can see here, gateway to the east. So they control some of the Silk Road, plus 30 food for each active trade network. Merchant guards, so presumably your trade and experience with other people allows you to recruit more mercenaries. That adds to replenishment rate right there. Commercial mastery, plus 10% trade income. So that's cool. I like that they're pushing these guys and especially making it evident that the trade in this era was very, very important. So I'm glad they're making that evident. And I'm glad that they have a faction here focused on going perhaps the financial route, especially out in the desert. I'm seeing how that will perhaps work out, and especially how the dynamics of these factions playing as them will work out against the Sassanids, a very powerful force in Attila that often makes it to the late game. So seeing how you can perhaps rival those guys, foster your own economy, and then take them over. But anyways, these guys aren't that much lacking in unit rosters as well. You can see here the synopsis again at the top, this time focusing around powerful spears and shock troops. They are slightly armored but capable of devastating optimal damage. Again, I want to point out that they're trying to focus this faction on a certain playstyle. We'll have to see that in the future with gameplay, but at least they're giving a shot at it. And they have some pretty interesting units here. You can see hunting dog archers, warhound bowmen, so they have little dogs attached to these units. I'm interested to see how that'll work out. You can see a lot of shock infantry with exceptional and high attack. That's good to see. I'm glad that they're going to have this heavy force right here. But you can also see a lot of these forces here. For example, Beher's Chosen is a Semitic pagan only, whereas the next one down the line, Bet's Georgis Cavalry, is early Christian only. So you can see, for example, the religious choices you make will then determine which units you can recruit, which unfortunately might cut down the effective, if you go down one path, it'll cut down effectively how many units you have at your disposal. Also, take a look at Mars Archers. They can snipe from cover. I thought that was pretty sweet. And yeah, now we're going to look over at the next faction again. Obviously looking very, very sweet. Love these cinematics. We're going to be looking at Himyar now. Himyar is a powerful Arabian kingdom on the peninsula, and the Himyarites survive in their arid land through a series of sophisticated, specialized adaptations to the desert. So not too much being shown here. They have this big famous historical dam that is going to be built into the campaign. You have to choose to maintain it, uphold it, and I think there's campaign events tied to it. So I'm glad that they're adding different sort of story-driven and historical-driven narratives. And that dam upkeeping will give you fertility boosting capabilities. For your warriors, you have minus 15% fatigue rate. So these guys specializing in the desert. Of course, all these factions are supposed to. So I'm kind of displeased by these guys only having, a fatigue rate, and that's it. I mean, if you play these guys in custom battles, they are not going to stand out at all compared to the previous two, which seems to have a huge unit roster. When you take a look at these guys, yeah, maybe it seems interesting right here, some of the units that they have, but moving forward, you can see here the unit roster written at the bottom. I mean, I know that's not all of them. I'm presuming whoever wrote this at CA got probably a little lazy, didn't write out all the units, but, if this is all we can see for now, it looks kind of threadbare. So I hope they don't end up doing too many copy and paste between the other desert tribes. But look at the top, you can see they're referring to the Marib Dam, which players will periodically be presented with options to make repairs. Leaving the dam untended brings the risk of floods, and the repair is costly. However, in good working order, the dam can bring a powerful series of benefits. So I think that's cool. Another way to interact with the campaign map itself. The units themselves, forces drilled to great feats of stamina. That's never been the super useful feature in Attila. It does say they have a series of units with great tanking capabilities. I hope that's true, but if you look at the stats on these guys, they just have a couple guys drawn out here, but it's not enough to tell what is going to be the makeup of this faction. So yeah, we'll probably have to wait to see what is going to come out of this in the future. So far, my takeaway from this is I think it's awesome that they decided to push it over and try something new, throw some variety into Attila, because that's what this game desperately needs. And I think the Desert Kingdoms is as good as you're going to get in terms of variety. And I'm glad that, when we're looking over the faction roster units, that they were trying to separate and distinguish each of them. As far as what it offers from the campaign perspective, I haven't played it just yet. We'll have to wait for more reviews. Again, I don't really get too far in depth to notice that, but I think in terms of their starting position in Africa and Arabia, definitely going to be very interesting. Play, against the Sassanids and see where you can expand from this region of the world. Definitely very interesting. I think the starting conditions alone will make it very different. Some of the campaign mechanics will be cool. So yeah, I think overall I would give CA, a pretty handy thumbs up on this. I mean, it's a good effort. I think it looks great. I like the implementations that they're changing. Now, the drawbacks of this, it's rather expensive for what they're offering. I think it's on par with the previous DLC, so if you want to compare just DLC to DLC, this will probably be one of the better ones. Again, take that with a grain of salt because I haven't played this, but just from what I've seen. Now, what I do hope this comes with is a rather substantial look at Attila. Attila has been suffering, you can tell by just the number of sales, the number of people playing online. It's very kind of lackluster experience right now. A lot of people are shying away from it due to lack of variety, and I think and I hope that they go ahead and CA takes this opportunity to try and flesh out the game and tries to rebalance it and really breathe some new life into this game, because Attila is beautiful. It took a lot of stuff from Rome 2 and it improved it. You have the sieges, for instance, here with siege escalation, a lot of awesome features in the game, very much polished and all that stuff. It just needs a little bit more variety. It needs a little bit more shining up of that armor to get it going again, and I would happily cover this, especially with these new factions bringing more life. So I hope CA keeps it up, brings some more of the variety to the game, and I hope they don't let up on this title. I think it's obviously a gem that could use it just a little bit more polishing up, and hopefully we'll be able to play some more games with it. Speaking of polishing up, CA, please, if you're watching this, I beg you to fix all the problems with the custom battle map and campaign editor. I know you guys released that. It had a lot of bugs. People have been dissuaded from using it. Darren, sorry I'm going to put you on blast, but you said you would put up a series of tutorials on how to use it. Last time I checked, that hadn't been up. It seems like support for that whole thing has dropped. I've only seen a couple custom battle maps online. I think you guys really need to support that because it could grow this game tremendously. And yeah, it'd be a shame to invest all that time in that type of title and then let it just drop. Anyways, that's going to be my take on it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for more official news. Yeah, make of this what you wish. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.